The hot Australian sun rises over the Great Barrier Reef and has been watched for millions of years by the Great Dividing Range. To the untrained eye, these mountains all look the same, but they all tell a different story, and I'm going to share one with you. Its dangers, its threats, its treasures, and my journey to uncover them. Varying temperatures, extreme wind, and high amounts of rain has shaped the mighty stone pillar, a castle, which stands guard to a range of highly specialised rainforest plants atop its tower. Due to the sensitive nature of this inspiring ecosystem and the nature of humanity, I can't tell you where this is. You'll have to earn that for yourself. But come on an adventure with me, and together we can look for an orchid spectacular that not only ecologically, but physically sits on top of the world. Our trip starts at 3 in the morning, 3 in a wet morning, and we are initiated by a slippery log crossing over a creek flowing fast with recent rains. If we get wet boots and socks now, the party's over. Blisters and itches won't take long to set in, and with 5 kilometres of steep obstacles to get through, we need to stay in our prime for as long as possible. Heading up the track, the first thing to catch my eye is a cane toad. You've likely heard of them and the problems they cause. They outcompete and even eat native species, dominating the creeks with thousands of eggs at a time. We keep pushing up a little further and the vegetation starts to change. We come out at a ridge where the wet source edge and wind threatens to whip my face. There are steep drops to the side which the camera can't do justice. The soil is quite sandy and appears weak, but it holds together and permits us to pass. Casuarinas start to come in along the ridges, and so do the orchids which favour their bark. One by one I notice new orchid species declaring themselves. Large bulbs with terminal tufts growing off trees, small bulbs which snake with tiny leaves, strange pendulous teeth, and leafy rosettes in the comfort of a boulder. Orchid diversity is testimonial of their intricate connections to a wide range of ecological factors over millions of years. This rock is interesting as it has far more species growing on it than any others. About every species we've seen so far happens to be calling it home. I'm starting to get the rainforest itches, so stop to do a quick health check, and sure enough, we have some hitchhikers. Leeches go for the ankles typically, but they can make their way up into your eye, so it pays to get them off as quick as possible. Not only is the diversity of the orchids increasing as we push on, but their abundance does too. We start to notice orchids that have fallen out of trees, and although I know remounting has a low success rate, I can't help myself. I can't leave them on the ground. Reducing impact is not enough. We must try to have a positive impact. As our altitude increases, the rocks get bigger, and we find ourselves squeezing through caverns. Being dry and dusty is a stark contrast to wet and muddy. I wonder what other animals use this path. Perhaps feral pigs? I try not to breathe the dust in and avoid any diseases. We come out to the other side and looking back, see the cave roof, carpeted with hundreds of slender sphinx orchids. They call for attention, but the sun is starting to come up, so we must keep moving. With a bit of a rush on, I feel fatigue setting in. I'm wet, my clothes are heavy, and I'm itchy. But I know these are just tactics of the castle to deter would-be robbers. But we are close to the top. Some more scrambling through the dense shrubbery, and we stand at the base of the ancient giant. Fair knights of the past have come before us and laid a path to climb to the castle's highest tower. A 6-metre vertical climb up wet rock without a harness is intimidating under strained conditions. The castle will not reveal its treasures easily. Droplets of water beat out of the rope as I put my weight on it. I coordinate my breathing, steps and handwork. Small shrubs drop water into my eyes, but full commitment is needed to push past this. My shoes are gripping well into the rock face, but this is not the sort of activity you want to finish on a 5-kilometre hike. Some new rope comes in, the rock starts to curve, and there is some respite. I keep moving and we start to see our height over the surrounding landscape. We start to see the castle in the clouds. I shimmy up some thin, slippery edges to keep moving up the tower. Mosses, lichen, orchids and other unusual herbs start to appear. They drip down the cliffside. Visibility is low, yet the scenery is beautiful. We must continue to tread carefully. This is not somewhere we want to get careless and slip. One final push into dense shrubbery and we can set up camp and get some more respite before getting down to business. Well, I wanted a morning when there were clouds about. There's definitely clouds about. There's definitely rain and it's definitely cold. Maybe I need to learn to pick the conditions just a little bit better. But as you can see, the place is literally dripping with orchids. We're on a particular ecosystem, on a rocky outcrop, capped with vegetation. And the wind and the humidity just rushes through here and it's perfect for epiphytes. The place is literally dripping with epiphytes. They've fallen out of the trees all over the ground. I'm going to try and remount a few, but they're all over the place. Haven't had any breakfast yet, so that's number one on the list. Number two is maybe thinking about another way down because the rocks are slippery and going down is different to going up. So we're going to have to see how that pans out. I don't think the drone is a good idea. Visibility is poor and the wind is high. We'll hang around for a little bit, but I'm soaking, it's starting to get cold. I'll get what I can and we might have to come back for another day. So I set out with the tripod to have a look around, and as beautiful as it is, it's not the spectacular I set out to find. There's even very few spikes out. There's actually more left over from last year. Perhaps I jumped the gun and came out too early in the season. There is, however, a range of other cool orchids to check out. Christmas, snake, and burr orchids, to name a few. I start to collect data on my phone. Information such as species, abundance, hosts, and negative impacts will give a valuable picture to compare in time and assist in conservation efforts underway by other stakeholders. There are so many useful data collection apps available on mobile devices, but none of them fare well with rain, so I wrap it up after a short while. Unfortunately, there is no other way down, so we're going to have to brave it. Putting my weight in a different position, holding the rope, and controlling my breathing, aligning it with my hands and footwork, I ease back into the drop. The wet shrubs come back to obscure my view of the drop below. Maybe not a bad thing. Shuffling my feet gets difficult. As the cliff steepens, the water runs down it faster. My hands get shaky, and the tension in the rope increases. My fingers are sore and numb, but I can start to see the ground, and a few more steps, one final jump, and we have touchdown. My body is exhausted, my feet are itching, Morale is low, and we still have a 5-kilometre track to head back. I double check my navigation apps and I revisit the orchids we saw on the way back up in the dark. Although a little down, I make the most of what we have and there is still work to be done. I remove the pack and start collecting data. With a wonderful abundance of sphinx orchids, I managed to find one in flower. I again record the population data and negative impacts. I try to avoid the rain, but the phone starts to glitch and it's time to head home. I start the final descent through kauri-dominated rainforest and into the casuarina ridges. A little disheartened to be too early for the spectacular, proud of the trip, but very exhausted. I wonder, what will it take to see the full beauty of the castle in the clouds? But things can change quickly in the natural world. So again, it's early in the morning and I'm here to give it another go. This is not an easy trek for me. Clearly I love an adventure, but getting up at 3 AM with a heavy pack and hiking in 5 kilometres requires a level of discipline that challenges me and my work-life balance. The moon is bright, the wind is chilly, and in no time at all I'm spotting changes in the orchids. Oak orchid spikes and even new orchids I didn't see before. Even just a slight change in light, shadows, or angle of vision, and an old track can be like walking a new one. I'm not familiar with this orchid. I'll take note of its habit, bulbs, leaves, and numerous small flowered pendulous spikes to help identify it later on. I return to the boulder of diversity. Again, a quick glimpse reveals an orchid I didn't see last time, and it's in flower, an urchin orchid. We can return in the light for a better look. Using a range of navigation apps, I stay focused on the track in changing conditions and arrive at the boulder outcrops. Pass through the secret passage. It's drier and dustier this time. It's hard to avoid breathing in what feels like dangerous rainforest dust, a booby trap to test invaders. The ropes again await, and the sun continues to challenge us as it rises and waits for no man. The rope and rock is drier too. My exhaustion and mental fatigue is less than last time. A warm skyline is welcoming and testifies of a seasonal change. What will the orchids have to say? The diversity is still striking, and things have progressed. But the spectacular is not here. A significant number of spikes have emerged, almost as if to tease me. The castle again retains its treasure. But it rewards us nonetheless. Today, we may fly the drone and collect more data. So we've made it up here for another day. It's a little more comfortable this time. It's not raining. It is still freezing cold. I'm starting to lose a little sensation in my fingers again. There is a bit of a chill factor with the wind that's again rushing through here. but it's definitely more comfortable than last time, and I'm looking forward to having a bit of a poke around under the canopy up here and seeing what's out this time. There was already some flowers out on the way up here that weren't last time, so we'll have a look at them on the way back. But for now, we're going to have a bit of a look around on top of the cliff up here. So last time when I mentioned this place was dripping with orchids, I wasn't joking, and you'll get a better sense of this now. There is literally an orchid everywhere you look. The more you look, the more you see. Small butterfly orchids cling for life to thin shrubs, and again there are orchids that need to be remounted. I'm not sure if I'm trying to give them hope or just myself. A buttercup orchid is starting to come into bud, and the burr orchids nestled amongst the moss are flowering proudly. Rope orchids grow in abundance across the rocks, and with a little more respectful exploring, the castle decides to give us a preview of the spectacular, a lone speciosum that can't hold its joy back. It gives me strength to try and come back in time, and as if to really play with my emotions, it shows me emerging sun orchids in a small gravel microclimate. The diversity in this place is truly wondrous. I collect data on the new finds, and it's time to head back. Uplifted, but challenged. Again, asking the question, what will it take to see this spectacular? I'm grateful for what I've been given, but in the back of my mind I can hear the family, work and other responsibilities calling. It puts a rush on me, it makes me anxious, even in a place of peace such as this. I managed to dismiss such thoughts with the help of the urchin orchid we saw on the way up. Its flowers, like many other orchids, grow upside down in orchid terms. Let's flip it to see it in a manner that the human mind can relate to. The Sphinx orchid continues to flower. We return to our final obstacle and on to home to reassess and again plan to get back to the spectacular approaching us. A few weeks have passed and we find ourselves back at the base of the castle. Clouds are around and there is again moisture in the air and on the rocks. It's been another 5 kilometers of hiking, and again the rain and ropes taunt us and test our commitment. Although the rocks are grippy, they are still slippery with the lichen and moss. My hands cling tightly to the rope. Whilst this is a precarious situation, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling familiar, I'm enjoying the scramble. Yet another change is present, warm and welcoming red resurrection plant. But no spectacular. More flowers, but no spectacular. The castle demands more. This is getting tough. The flowering season lasts a few months and clearly I'm too quick. The leeches are demoralising, I'm again soaking wet, itchy, and need to keep my wounds clean in these conditions to avoid serious health issues. This is not a trip to collect data. With low morale, I again descend. The castle does not care for my morale, it does not care for my health. I must stay focused and not slip down the rocks. Avoid the wet shrubs in my face, all whilst wondering if I really can commit to these demands. The more I give, the more it wants. Where do you draw the line? And now on the way back in the light, amongst the sombre sunset, I notice something else that is disheartening. Feral pig damage. It's fairly extensive and in prime terrestrial orchid habitat. I completely underestimate the strength and damage of these pests, and just how comfortable they are to rub it in my face. Although difficult to see in the camera, here I stand only meters away from one as it tries to lay claim to the track. I'm not in the mood to be pushed around by a pig though, and I push closer letting it know who the apex species is. It casually moves off. As I continue on to the vehicle, it gets darker and another pig comes into view. They're not scared at all. It moves on, human beings just a brief nuisance as it has its way with the forest, threatening orchids and the broader ecosystem. I can't give up now. Do you just let it all go when you've come this far? I need to seal the deal. I need to see the spectacular. I take a few minutes to catch my breath. Again, the season has changed. The air is warm, the rock and ropes are dry. There is a slight crackle to the lichen on the moss and the rocks. I push through the shrubs and the mighty walls start to round off. Orchids start to appear. I slide up the ledge and it's time. Beautiful orchids in full bloom. Dendrobium speciosum, meaning beautiful or splendid. These orchids sprawl down the cliff and contrast the rich red of the resurrection plant. I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I'm lifted. This is what it was all for. I'd seen it in books and in videos, and now I've earned it for myself. We've braved the castle's threats, seen its dangers, and now it rewards us with its treasures. Well, this is pretty magnificent, and I have to say it's been worth the effort. It's been a fairly full-on effort. It's been about four or five trips up here to get to this point. Watched them over about a month and a half now, but this is definitely the Speciosum spectacular. My camera really can't do it justice. We're going to have to try and get the drone out. So obviously these orchids are quite attractive, but possibly the best thing about them, the plants are commercially available, widely available. There's a whole range of hybrids, so there's no need to poach them. There's no need to take them from the wild. You'll find them with all sorts of color variations, and even the plant itself is quite attractive. These thick leathery leaves and these short fat pseudobulbs, they can be different sizes depending on the form. So it's an all-round winner, this plant. So over the past few months, we've managed to spend some time in the beautiful wet tropics of Queensland, the high altitude rainforest with highly specialised rare flora. I've been amazed by the beauty and worried by the threats. The colours, the textures, and the constant surprises are awe-inspiring. But I can't help but wonder, is it possible for the threats we've seen to bring this castle to its knees? What will it be which brings about the demise of this mighty empire? The waves of invasive species lapping at its doorstep, toads, lantana, pigs, or a changing climate? What will happen to the Speciosum spectacular? Can the intricate requirements of this ecosystem and its orchids be maintained under such dangerous variables? Could one of the threats be the answers? Will the human hosts which flock to the castle take on its challenge of sacrifice for a greater good?